The crystal vase shattered against the marble floor, inches from Keisha's swollen belly. She pressed her back against the nursery wall, her hands instinctively cradling the life growing inside her. 7 months of hope and terror wrapped in secrecy. "You think I don't know?" Vivian Valentino's voice dripped with venom, her designer heels crunching over the glass shards. "You think I'm blind to what you are? A pregnant little slut playing house in my mansion?" Keisha's heart hammered. The 6-month-old baby in the crib behind Vivian began to cry, little Sophia, with her father's dark eyes and her mother's cruelty already surrounding her. "Mrs. Valentino, please, the baby—" "Don't you dare tell me about the baby." Vivian's hand rose, and Keisha flinched, but the blow never came. A hand, large, scarred, and impossibly gentle, caught Vivian's wrist mid-air. "Touch her." Marco Valentino's voice was death itself. "And you'll learn what I do to people who threaten what's mine." Keisha's breath caught. In Marco's obsidian eyes she saw something that made her tremble for an entirely different reason. He knew, God help her, he knew everything. What secret has Keisha been hiding? And why would the most dangerous man in New York risk everything to protect a maid? Keep watching to discover the truth that will change everything. 3 months earlier, Keisha Davis had stood in the employment office of the Valentino estate, her resume trembling in her hands, and her savings account showing $247.32, exactly $1, 752s, 68 short of next month's rent. The woman interviewing her, Mrs. Chen, the head housekeeper, looked over her reading glasses with the expression of someone who'd seen 1,000 desperate girls just like her. "You understand the Valentino family requires absolute discretion." Mrs. Chen's pen tapped against the clipboard. "Mr. Valentino is a very private man, prominent businessman. The press is always watching." Businessman. Keisha had grown up in the Bronx. She knew what that word meant when it came with armed guards and SUVs with tinted windows. "I understand, ma'am," Keisha said, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "I just need honest work." Mrs. Chen's expression softened slightly. "Your references from the hospital are impressive. Nursing assistant for 3 years before they laid you off? Budget cuts." Keisha's jaw tightened. She'd held dying patients' hands, had cleaned wounds and changed bedding, and worked double shifts until her feet bled. And then one day, her supervisor had called her into the office with an apologetic smile and a severance check that wouldn't cover 2 weeks of bills. "The position is for nursery care," Mrs. Chen continued. "Mr. Valentino's daughter, Sophia, 6 months old. The baby's mother is often busy with social obligations. We need someone with medical training and a gentle touch." Something in the older woman's tone made Keisha pause. "The baby's mother is often busy" sounded like a polite way of saying something much darker. But $3 $200 a month plus room and board. It was more than Keisha had made in 6 months of searching. "When can I start?" The Valentino mansion rose from the Connecticut hillside like something from another world, all white stone and vast windows, surrounded by walls that promised either sanctuary or prison depending on which side you stood. Keisha's first glimpse of Marco Valentino came at 2:47 a.m. on her 3rd night. She'd been walking the nursery with Sophia, who'd been crying for 20 minutes straight, that particular wail that meant gas pains and exhaustion and the kind of misery only a baby could feel. "Shh, sweet girl," Keisha murmured, swaying gently and rubbing circles on Sophia's tiny back. I know, the world's too big and too bright and nothing makes sense yet." "You're good with her." Keisha spun, her heart leaping into her throat. He stood in the doorway like a shadow given human form, 6'3" of tailored black suit and controlled danger. Marco Valentino's face could have been carved from marble, all sharp angles and dark eyes that seemed to see straight through skin and bone, to the secrets beneath. "Mr. Valentino." Keisha's voice came out steadier than she felt. "I'm sorry, I didn't know you were home. I'm always home." His gaze moved to Sophia, and something shifted in his expression. Something almost human. "My daughter has trouble sleeping." "She has reflux," Keisha said, the nurse in her overriding her fear. "Nothing serious, but uncomfortable. I've been keeping her upright after feedings and—" She caught herself. "I'm sorry, you didn't ask for a medical report." "No." Marco stepped into the room, and Keisha became acutely aware of how small the space suddenly felt. "But I'm asking now. Tell me everything about my daughter's health." For the next 15 minutes, Keisha detailed Sophia's feeding schedule, her sleep patterns, the small rash that had appeared and disappeared, the way she tracked faces with her eyes and had started reaching for objects. Marco listened with an intensity that was almost frightening. This wasn't a father getting an update. This was a general receiving intelligence about his most valuable asset. "Her mother doesn't mention these things," he said finally. Keisha bit her tongue. She'd met Vivian Valentino exactly once, a whirlwind of blonde hair and designer perfume, who'd swept through the nursery, made a face at a dirty diaper, and left without holding her daughter. "I'm sure Mrs. Valentino is very busy," Keisha said diplomatically. Something dark flickered through Marco's eyes. "You're a terrible liar, Miss Davis." Her breath caught. "I don't—" "It's refreshing." He moved closer, close enough that Keisha could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle. "Everyone in this house lies to me. My wife lies. My business associates lie. Even my own men lie when they think the truth will displease me." His hand reached out and Keisha froze, but he was only brushing a finger against Sophia's tiny fist. The baby immediately grabbed hold, and Marco's entire face transformed. For just a moment, Keisha saw past the monster everyone whispered about. She saw a man who loved his daughter with a ferocity that was almost painful to witness. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for caring for her when her own mother won't." Then he was gone, leaving Keisha trembling in the darkness with Sophia sleeping peacefully against her shoulder, and the distinct feeling that her life had just become infinitely more complicated. The complication arrived in full force 2 weeks later. Keisha was in the kitchen. Technically not her job, but Sophia was napping and Mrs. Chen had asked for help with lunch prep. She was chopping vegetables when nausea hit like a freight train. She barely made it to the bathroom before her stomach rebelled. When she emerged, pale and shaking, Mrs. Chen was waiting with a glass of water and knowing eyes. "How far along?" Keisha's denial died on her lips. 16 weeks. "Does the father know?" "There is no father." Keisha's voice turned to steel. "There's a man who said he loved me, who promised we'd build a life together, and who disappeared the moment I told him I was pregnant. So no, there's no father." Mrs. Chen studied her for a long moment. "You'll start showing soon." "I know." Keisha's hand moved to her still flat stomach. "I'll work as long as I can, save everything, and find something else before—" "Mr. Valentino doesn't fire women for being pregnant, child. He's many things, but he's not cruel to the vulnerable." The older woman's expression softened. "But you should tell him, before someone else does." That night, Keisha stood outside Marco's office for 10 minutes before she found the courage to knock. "Enter." He sat behind a desk of dark wood, papers spread before him, a glass of amber liquid at his elbow. Behind him, floor-to-ceiling windows showed the estate's grounds, beautiful and isolating. "Miss Davis." He set down his pen. "Is Sophia all right?" "She's fine, sleeping peacefully." Keisha twisted her hands together. "I need to speak with you about something personal." His attention sharpened. "Sit." She sat. "I'm pregnant," she said, deciding that ripping off the bandage was better than slow torture. 16 weeks. It won't affect my work for months yet, but I wanted to be honest with you. I'll work until— Who's the father? The question was delivered in that same even tone he used for everything, but Keisha caught the edge of something dangerous beneath it. "No one," she said. "No one who matters." "Did he hurt you?" "Mr. Valentino." "Did he hurt you?" Keisha met his eyes and saw murder living there. "He hurt me by leaving, that's all." Marco was quiet for a long moment. Then, "You'll stay. You'll continue caring for Sophia. When you can no longer work, you'll rest. You'll have full medical care. I'll arrange everything. After the baby comes, you'll have 3 months' leave. Paid." Keisha's throat tightened. That's too generous." "No." Marco stood, moving to the window. "It's what my daughter needs. Sophia trusts you. She needs you. And what my daughter needs, she gets." He wasn't looking at Keisha when he added, "Both of them." Keisha's breath caught. She wanted to ask what he meant, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she whispered, "Thank you," and fled before the tears could fall. Behind his desk, Marco Valentino poured another drink and tried not to think about how right it had felt to promise protection to the woman carrying someone else's child, or how much he wanted to find the man who'd abandoned her and teach him what happened to cowards. What is Marco really thinking? And why does he care so much about a maid he barely knows? The answer will shock you. Keep watching. The pregnancy changed things in ways Keisha hadn't anticipated. Mrs. Chen switched her to lighter duties. The other staff, 3 housekeepers, 2 groundskeepers, a cook, and Marco's personal assistant, began treating her with a strange deference as if she'd been elevated to some untouchable status. And Marco watched her, not obviously, not creepily. But Keisha felt his attention like a physical touch, in meetings that ran long so he'd coincidentally be leaving his office when she walked past with Sophia, in the way his eyes tracked her across rooms, in the bottle of prenatal vitamins that appeared on her nightstand without explanation. At 20 weeks, Dr. Reyes, Marco's personal physician, flown in from Manhattan, did Keisha's anatomy scan in the estate's medical wing, because of course there was a medical wing. "Healthy," Dr. Reyes announced, smiling at the screen. "Strong heartbeat. Good size. Do you want to know the sex?" Keisha looked at the tiny form on the ultrasound, her baby, her miracle, her terror. "Yes." "Congratulations. You're having a son." "A son." Keisha touched the screen gently, wonder and fear warring in her chest. How would she raise a black boy in this world? How would she teach him to be strong and safe? How would she... "Everything all right?" Marco's voice from the doorway made both women jump. "Mr. Valentino," Dr. Reyes said smoothly, "I was just finishing Miss Davis's scan. Both mother and baby are perfectly healthy." Marco's gaze moved to the screen, and something unreadable crossed his face. "A boy?" "Yes," Keisha said softly. "Strong," Marco murmured. "Like his mother." The compliment hit Keisha like a physical blow. When had anyone called her strong? When had anyone looked at her, really looked, and seen past the fear and exhaustion to the steel underneath? Dr. Reyes cleared her throat diplomatically. "I'll prepare the report. Miss Davis, take these," she handed over papers, "and make sure you're getting enough rest. Mr. Valentino, a word about Sophia's upcoming vaccinations." As they spoke in medical jargon, Keisha studied Marco. Really studied him. People called him a monster, and maybe they were right. She'd seen the men who came to late-night meetings, had heard whispers about shipments and territories and consequences for disloyalty. She wasn't naive, but she'd also seen him at 3 a.m., walking the nursery with Sophia when she was teething, his voice rough with exhaustion as he sang Italian lullabies. She'd watched him wipe drool from his $3,000 suit without flinching. She'd caught the tenderness in his hands when he changed diapers, this man who probably ordered executions with the same casualness. "Miss Davis?" Keisha blinked. Marco was looking at her with concern. "You're pale," he said. "When did you last eat?" Breakfast?" His jaw tightened. "It's 4 p.m. Dr. Reyes, we're done here." To Keisha, "Come." It wasn't a request. The kitchen was empty, the cook's day off. Marco pointed to a stool. "Sit." Keisha sat, watching in bewilderment as one of the most powerful men in New York opened the refrigerator and began pulling out ingredients. "You cook?" The words escaped before she could stop them. "My mother insisted." Marco's hands moved with surprising competence, cracking eggs into a pan. "She said a man who can't feed himself is a man who can be controlled." He glanced over his shoulder. She was right about most things. "Was cancer 8 years ago. I'm sorry." "Don't be. She lived well. Died, surrounded by family." The eggs sizzled. "Your parents?" "My mom's in Atlanta, remarried. We don't talk much." Keisha's fingers traced the counter's edge. "She didn't approve of my choices, the career I wanted, the men I dated." She laughed bitterly. Guess she was right about that last part. Marco plated the omelette, perfect restaurant quality, and set it before her with toast and fruit. Eat. The first bite was heaven. The second made Keisha realize how hungry she actually was. "The man who left you," Marco said, his voice deceptively casual as he leaned against the counter. "Tell me his name." "Why?" Keisha looked up, sensing danger. "Curiosity." "Liar." The word hung between them. Marco's eyes widened slightly, and then, impossibly, he smiled. A real smile that transformed his entire face. "You're brave, Miss Davis, calling a man like me a liar." "You said you appreciated honesty." Keisha met his gaze. "The truth is, I don't want you to know his name because I know what you'd do. And he's not worth it. He's not worth you risking anything." "I wouldn't be risking anything. I'd be correcting a mistake." "Your mistake or his?" "His, for not seeing what he had." The intensity in Marco's voice made Keisha's heart skip. She looked away, focusing on her plate. "I should get back to Sophia. She's with Mrs. Chen. Finish eating." They fell into silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Keisha ate while Marco made himself an espresso, and somehow it felt natural, this strange domestic moment between them. "My wife hates me," Marco said suddenly. Keisha nearly choked on her toast. "I don't think she does, and I hate her." He took a sip of espresso, his expression unreadable. "Our marriage was arranged business, two families joining resources. I thought we could be civil, maybe even friendly. I was wrong." "Then why stay for Sophia?" Marco's hand tightened on his cup. "Vivian can't have more children, complications during birth. Sophia is my only child, and I won't let her grow up without her mother, even if that mother is—" He stopped himself. "Awful," Keisha supplied quietly. "I was going to say absent, but awful works." Marco looked at Keisha. "You're more of a mother to my daughter than her biological parent. You know that? I just do my job." "No, you love her. I see it in how you hold her, talk to her, protect her." His voice dropped. "Thank you for loving my daughter when no one else will." Tears pricked Keisha's eyes. "She's easy to love." They stared at each other across the kitchen, and Keisha felt something shift, some invisible line being crossed. This wasn't employer and employee anymore. This was something far more dangerous. The moment shattered when Vivian's voice echoed from the foyer. "Marco, where are you? We have the Castellano dinner tonight, and I need to—" She appeared in the doorway and froze, taking in the scene. Her husband and the pregnant maid sharing a meal in the kitchen. "How cozy," Vivian said, ice dripping from every syllable. Marco didn't even look at her. "Vivian, I thought you were at the spa." "Obviously." Vivian's eyes raked over Keisha with contempt. "Though I'm sure our staff provides all the relaxation you need." Keisha stood, her cheeks burning. "I should—" "Yes, you should." Vivian's smile was vicious. "Run along, help. That's what we pay you for." "Enough," Marco said quietly, but there was murder in his tone. Vivian's expression flickered, just for a moment, with something like fear. Then she recovered, lifting her chin. "We leave at 7. Don't be late." She swept out, leaving poison in her wake. Keisha exhaled shakily. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have—" "You did nothing wrong." Marco moved closer, so close Keisha could feel the heat radiating from him. "And Keisha." It was the first time he'd used her first name. It sent shivers down her spine. "Yes? If she speaks to you like that again, tell me immediately." It wasn't a request. It was a promise of protection, and God help her, Keisha believed him. That night, Keisha lay in her room, comfortable, private, more luxury than she'd ever known, and tried to make sense of what was happening. She was pregnant with another man's child. She was a maid in a criminal's mansion. She had no business feeling anything for Marco Valentino except professional respect. And yet, her hand moved to her growing belly, where her son grew strong and safe. "Your mama's in trouble," she whispered. "I think I'm falling for a man I can never have. A man who's married, a man who's dangerous, a man who looked at her like she was precious." The knock on her door made her jump. Mrs. Chen stood in the hallway, her face grave. "Tomorrow morning, Sophia has her checkup. Mr. Valentino wants you to accompany them." Both of them? Just Mr. Valentino. Mrs. Valentino has other plans. Mrs. Chen's expression softened. Be careful, child. I've worked for this family for 15 years. I've never seen Mr. Valentino look at anyone the way he looks at you. After she left, Keisha lay awake until dawn, Marco's words echoing in her mind. Thank you for loving my daughter when no one else will. But what happened when the love didn't stop at the daughter? What happened when it extended to the father, too? The danger is growing, and it's not just from Vivian. What will Marco do when he realizes his feelings? Keep watching to find out. The pediatrician's office was in Manhattan, a private practice that catered to the city's elite. Marco drove himself, which surprised Keisha. She'd expected armed drivers and security details. I like driving, Marco said, catching her expression as they navigated traffic. Sophia cooed happily from her car seat, reaching for the sunlight streaming through the windows. It's one of the few times I can be normal. Normal? Keisha almost laughed. There was nothing normal about this. Sitting in a bulletproof Mercedes with a Mafia boss and his baby daughter, her own pregnant belly pressed against the seatbelt, trying not to notice how Marco's hands looked on the steering wheel. Strong hands, scarred knuckles. Hands that could kill but cradled Sophia with heartbreaking gentleness. You're staring, Marco murmured, amused. Keisha's cheeks heated. Sorry, this is all very surreal. For me, too. He glanced at her, and something in his expression made her breath catch. I don't usually bring anyone to these appointments, but Sophia gets fussy with the doctor. She needs you there. She needs you, not I need you, but the way he said it felt personal anyway. The appointment went smoothly. Sophia was hitting all her milestones, growing perfectly. The pediatrician, Dr. Patel, was a warm woman in her 50s who treated Marco like a person rather than a criminal, which made Keisha like her immediately. She's thriving, Dr. Patel said, handing Sophia back to Keisha. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Miss Davis deserves the credit, Marco said. She's the one who— Papa! The word stopped everyone cold. Sophia, 9 months old, bounced in Keisha's arms and reached for Marco, repeating, Papa! Papa! Dr. Patel laughed delightedly. Well, first words are always magical, but Marco stood frozen, his expression raw with an emotion Keisha couldn't name. Slowly, he took his daughter, and Sophia immediately grabbed his face with both tiny hands. Papa, she said again, this time with absolute certainty. Marco's eyes glistened. He pressed his forehead to Sophia's, his voice breaking, Si bambina, Papa. Keisha had to look away, her own tears threatening. This moment was too intimate, too precious. She was an intruder, witnessing something sacred. Miss Davis, Marco's voice made her look back. Thank you. For this. For her. I didn't do anything. You did everything. They stared at each other over Sophia's head, and Keisha felt the world narrow to just the three of them. This impossible little unit that made no sense and felt more right than anything in her life. Dr. Patel cleared her throat diplomatically. I'll just get those vaccination records. The drive back was quiet until Sophia fell asleep. Vivian will hate that Sophia's first word was Papa, Marco said, his tone flat. She doesn't spend time with her, Keisha said before she could stop herself. I'm sorry, that's not my place. It's the truth, and I value truth. Marco's hands tightened on the wheel. I thought when Sophia was born, Vivian would change, that motherhood would soften her, make her care. Some women aren't meant to be mothers, and some are meant to be, even if they're not the biological parent. Keisha's heart stuttered. Was he talking about her? They reached the estate as storm clouds gathered. Marco carried a sleeping Sophia inside, but instead of heading to the nursery, he turned toward his office. Sir? Keisha followed, confused. I need to show you something. His office was empty, rare for midday. Marco settled Sophia in a portable crib he kept in the corner. Keisha's heart clenched at that detail. He'd bought it so his daughter could be near him while he worked. Then he opened a drawer and pulled out a folder. Divorce papers, he said, setting them on the desk. My lawyer prepared them months ago. Keisha's breath caught. Why are you showing me this? Because you need to understand. This isn't sudden. This isn't about you. His eyes burned into hers. "I've wanted out of this marriage since the day it began, but I waited, for Sophia, for timing, for the right moment to make sure my daughter would be protected." "Mr. Valentino, Marco, please, when it's just us, call me Marco." "Marco," she whispered, and his eyes darkened. "Why are you telling me this?" He moved around the desk, close enough to touch. "Because in the last 3 months, you've become essential to my life in a way I never expected. You care for my daughter. You bring light into this house. You look at me like I'm a man, not a monster." "You are a man," Keisha said softly. "I'm also a monster. Don't fool yourself about that." His hand rose, hovering near her face without quite touching. "But with you, I want to be better." Keisha's heart hammered. "You're married. I'm pregnant with another man's child. This can't—" I know all the reasons this is impossible." Marco's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "But tell me you don't feel it too. Tell me I'm imagining this thing between us." She couldn't. God help her, she couldn't lie. "I feel it," she admitted, "but feeling something doesn't make it right, doesn't make it safe. Nothing about my life is safe, Keisha, but I'd die before I let anyone hurt you or your son. Your son, not that man's son, your son." The possessiveness in Marco's voice made Keisha tremble. "This is crazy," she breathed. "Probably." Marco's lips curved slightly. "But when has anything good in my life been sane?" Before Keisha could respond, footsteps echoed in the hallway. They jumped apart just as Marco's assistant, Thomas, appeared. "Boss, we have a situation. Lorenzo Marchetti is here, unannounced." Marco's entire demeanor changed, the softness evaporating, replaced by cold authority. "Where?" "South Gate. He brought 6 men. Tell him I'll meet him in the conference room. 15 minutes. Marco turned to Keisha. "Take Sophia to the nursery. Don't leave it until I come for you. Lock the door." Fear spiked through her. "What's happening?" "Business." His hand touched her arm briefly. "You're safe here, I promise." As Keisha hurried toward the nursery with Sophia, she heard Marco's voice behind her, deadly calm. "Call Dante and Luca. Full security protocol. And Thomas, if Marchetti makes one move toward my daughter, or Miss Davis, kill him." The storm broke an hour later. Keisha sat in the nursery, Sophia playing with blocks on the floor, and tried not to imagine what was happening downstairs, tried not to think about Marco facing dangerous men, tried not to wonder if he was safe. When had she started caring so much? When had this stopped being a job and become something terrifyingly personal? The sound of shouting made her jump, then gunshots, sharp and unmistakable. Sophia started crying. Keisha scooped her up, her own heart racing, and moved to the corner farthest from the door. Her phone sat on the changing table, useless. Who would she call? The police? They probably had half the department on payroll. More gunshots. Closer now. Then silence. The doorknob rattled. Keisha's breath stopped. "Keisha, it's me. Open the door." Marco's voice. She sagged with relief, unlocking the door with shaking hands. He stood there with blood on his white shirt. Not his own, she realized with horror. His eyes swept over her and Sophia with frantic intensity. "You're okay? Both of you?" "We're fine. What happened?" Marchetti got ambitious, tried to make a statement. Marco's jaw clenched. It didn't end well for him. "Is he—" "Don't ask questions you don't want answers to." Marco stepped inside, closing the door. "Pack a bag. You and Sophia are leaving. Tonight." "What? Where?" "My private residence in the Hamptons. It's secure. Off the books. No one knows about it, except my most trusted men." His hands gripped her shoulders. "What happened today?" "This is my world, Keisha. This is what my life means. Violence, danger. I won't risk you or my daughter." "What about you?" "I'll handle things here, then join you in a few days." His thumb brushed her cheek, a touch so tender it made her ache. "I need to know you're safe. Both of you. All 3 of you." His hand moved to her belly, where her son kicked strongly. The intimacy of the gesture stole Keisha's breath. "Marco." "Go," he said roughly. "Before I do something stupid like kiss you and forget every reason why I shouldn't." She went, her heart in tatters, Marco's touch still burning on her skin. Behind her, Marco Valentino stood in his daughter's nursery, blood on his hands and murder in his heart, and made a decision. He'd built an empire on ruthlessness. He'd killed men who threatened what was his. And now, for the first time in his life, he understood what true possession meant. Keisha Davis and her unborn son weren't his, but God help anyone who tried to touch them anyway. Everything is about to change. The danger is real, and so is Marco's obsession. What happens next will shock you. Keep watching. The Hamptons house was beautiful, smaller than the Connecticut estate, but warmer, more intimate. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the ocean. Soft carpets, gentle lighting. A home, not a fortress. Keisha spent 3 days in a strange limbo, caring for Sophia, talking to her unborn son, and trying not to think about Marco back in Connecticut, dealing with whatever bloody aftermath Marchetti's ambition had created. On the 4th day, Vivian arrived. Keisha was in the nursery when she heard the screaming downstairs. She'd left Sophia playing in the living room with one of Marco's guards, Tony, a mountain of a man who'd proven surprisingly gentle with the baby. She rushed downstairs to find Vivian standing in the foyer, her face twisted with rage. "Where is she?" Vivian shrieked. "Where's that pregnant little whore?" Tony had positioned himself between Vivian and the living room, where Sophia was thankfully out of sight. "Ma'am, you need to leave," Tony said calmly. "Mr. Valentino's orders. Fuck Marco's orders. This is my daughter, my house." "Actually," Keisha said from the stairs, her voice steady despite her pounding heart, "this isn't your house. Marco bought it before your marriage. It's not in the prenup." Vivian's eyes locked on Keisha, and the hatred there was palpable. "You? You did this. You poisoned him against me." "I haven't done anything except my job." "Your job?" Vivian laughed viciously. "Your job is spreading your legs for my husband? Getting knocked up with some deadbeats bastard and playing the victim? You think I don't see what you're doing?" Each word was a knife, but Keisha forced herself to breathe, to stay calm. "Mrs. Valentino, I think you should leave. Don't tell me what to do." Vivian lunged forward, but Tony caught her. She struggled, then suddenly went still, her smile turning cruel. "You want to know a secret? About Sophia?" Dread curled in Keisha's stomach. "Don't. She's not Marco's biological daughter." The words hung in the air like poison. "What?" Keisha whispered. "That's right." Vivian's smile widened. "I had an affair, got pregnant. Marco doesn't know. He was so desperate for an heir, he never questioned it. Sophia is Anthony Ricci's daughter, my lover's, and when I tell Marco the truth, he won't want her anymore, won't want you to care for her. You'll both be thrown out like the trash you are." "You're lying," Keisha said, but her voice shook. "Am I? Look at Sophia's eyes, not Marco's brown, they're blue-gray, like Anthony's. Look at her nose, her chin." Vivian laughed. "I've been cuckolding the great Marco Valentino for 2 years and he never suspected a thing." From the living room, Sophia started crying, as if she could feel the toxicity in the air. And something in Keisha snapped. "You know what?" Keisha descended the stairs slowly, her hand on her belly, her eyes blazing. "Even if that's true, even if Sophia isn't Marco's biological daughter, it doesn't matter, because he loves her. He chose her. That little girl in there. She said Papa for the first time last week, and his eyes filled with tears. He walks her at 3 a.m. when she can't sleep. He knows every cry, every preference, every tiny detail of her existence." Keisha moved closer, and Vivian actually stepped back. "Biology doesn't make you a parent," Keisha continued, her voice steel. "Love does. Showing up does. And you haven't shown up for one single day of that baby's life. So whether she's Marco's blood or not, she's still more his daughter than she'll ever be yours. How dare you?" "I dare because someone needs to defend that child. Someone needs to stand between her and a mother who uses her as a weapon." Keisha's hand moved protectively to her belly. "I know what it's like to have a mother who doesn't love you, who looks at you and sees a burden. I won't let Sophia grow up with that pain." "You're just the help," Vivian spat. "I'm the woman who loves his daughter. And maybe," Keisha's voice softened, "maybe I'm the woman who loves him too." The admission hung in the air. Vivian's expression morphed from rage to triumph. Oh, this is perfect. The pregnant maid in love with her employer. How cliché. Vivian pulled out her phone. I'm calling Marco right now. I'm telling him everything about your pathetic little crush, about how you're trying to steal his daughter, about Sophia's real father. And then we'll see who he chooses. Tell him, Keisha said quietly. Tell him everything, because unlike you, I'm not afraid of the truth. They stared at each other, two women separated by everything except their connection to the same man. And then a voice from the doorway. No need to call. I'm already here. Marco stood in the entrance, his suit jacket gone, his shirt sleeves rolled up, his eyes dark with an emotion Keisha couldn't read. How long have you been standing there? Vivian demanded. Long enough. Marco's gaze moved to Keisha. Take Sophia upstairs, now. Keisha fled, scooping up a crying Sophia and rushing to the nursery. She pressed her ear to the door, but the house was well built. She could hear only muffled sounds. 15 minutes later, she heard a car start. Then silence. Another 5 minutes and footsteps on the stairs. Marco opened the nursery door. His expression was unreadable. Is she gone? Keisha asked. Yes. Marco moved to where Sophia sat in Keisha's lap, still hiccuping from her tears. He knelt before them, his hand cupping his daughter's cheek. Sophia, my baby girl. Marco, what Vivian said about... I know. His voice was flat. I've known for 4 months. Keisha's breath caught. What? DNA test. I had one done when Vivian started acting strange, pulling away even more than usual. Marco's smile was bitter. Turns out my wife was right. Sophia isn't mine, biologically. But you still love her, with everything I am. Marco lifted Sophia into his arms and she immediately grabbed his face, saying, Papa, over and over. This child has my name, my protection, my heart. A DNA test can't change that. Tears streamed down Keisha's face. You're a good father. I'm trying to be. Marco looked at Keisha. I heard what you said to Vivian about loving Sophia. I do love her. And the other thing you said about maybe loving someone else? Keisha's heart stopped. She'd forgotten that part, forgotten her confession in the heat of the moment. Marco, I shouldn't have... I'm divorcing her, Marco interrupted. The papers are filed. She won't fight it. I'm giving her enough money to disappear and never come back. She signed away all parental rights to Sophia an hour ago. She what? I gave her a choice. $10 million and she walks away completely or nothing, and I destroy her family's business empire. She chose the money. She always chooses money. Marco's expression hardened. She never wanted Sophia, never wanted me. She wanted the Valentino name and the power it gave her. I'm sorry, Keisha whispered. Don't be. I'm free, and Sophia is mine, legally now without question. The adoption papers are being finalized. Marco set Sophia in her crib, then turned to Keisha with devastating intensity. Now tell me the truth. What you said to Vivian, was it real, or said in the heat of the moment? Keisha pressed a hand to her belly, where her son kicked steadily. This is insane. You're my employer. I'm pregnant. We barely know each other. I know you take your coffee with too much sugar. I know you sing to Sophia badly but with love. I know you cry during animated movies and laugh at stupid jokes. I know you're terrified of thunder and brave as hell when it matters. Marco moved closer, and Keisha's breath caught. I know the way your eyes light up when you talk about your son, the way you touch your belly like you're already protecting him from the world. Marco, I know I'm falling in love with you, he said roughly. And it's the stupidest, most dangerous thing I've ever done, but I can't stop it, don't want to stop it. Keisha's world tilted. You can't love me. You don't know me. Then let me know you. Give me time. Let me prove I'm more than what people say. His hand covered hers on her belly. Let me protect you and your son. Let me be there when he's born. Let me show you what having a partner means. Someone who won't run when things get hard. This is crazy, Keisha breathed. I know. Say yes anyway. She should refuse. Should run. Should protect her heart from this impossible man and his impossible life. But when she looked into Marco Valentino's eyes, She saw something she'd never expected. Hope. "One condition," Keisha said shakily. "You truly promise that you'll never hurt my son. Never make him feel less than Sophia because he's not yours biologically." "He'll be mine," Marco said with absolute certainty. "I'll adopt him if you'll let me. He'll have my name, my protection, everything, I swear it. You don't have to—" "I want to. Keisha, I want it all. You, Sophia, your son. I want to build something real, something good. Can we try?" She looked at Sophia, sleeping peacefully in her crib, looked at Marco kneeling before her like she was something precious, looked at her own swollen belly, where her son, their son, if Marco meant what he said, grew strong and safe. "Yes," Keisha whispered. "God help me, yes!" Marco's smile transformed his entire face. He pulled her close, carefully, mindful of her belly, and pressed his forehead to hers. "I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret this," he murmured. "You better," Keisha said through tears, "because I'm trusting you with everything." "I know." His lips brushed her temple. "And I'll be worthy of that trust, I promise." Outside, storm clouds gathered over the ocean, but inside, in that small nursery, 3 people, soon to be 4, found something like peace. It wouldn't be easy. Marco's world was dangerous, complicated, dark. But Keisha had spent her whole life fighting for survival. Now, finally, she'd found something worth fighting for, someone worth trusting, and maybe, just maybe, a family that would never abandon her. Is this really a happy ending, or is there more danger ahead? Watch the epilogue to find out. 6 months later, the morning sun streamed through the windows of the Hamptons' house, permanently their home now, far from the Connecticut estate and its bloody memories. Keisha sat in the nursery, expanded now with 2 cribs, nursing her 3-month-old son, Lucas Marco Valentino. Yes, Marco's name. He'd insisted, had filed the adoption papers the day Lucas was born, had cut the cord with tears streaming down his face. Sophia, now 15 months old, toddled around with a stuffed bear, chattering to herself in Italian and English, and Marco stood in the doorway, watching them with an expression of such profound contentment it made Keisha's heart ache. "You're staring again," she said, smiling. "Can you blame me?" Marco moved into the room, pressing a kiss to her head, then Sophia's, then trailing a gentle finger down Lucas's cheek. "My whole world, right here." "Sappy," Keisha teased. "You love it." She did. God, she did. The last 6 months had been a whirlwind. Marco's divorce finalized, Vivian disappearing to Europe with her settlement, Lucas's birth, terrifying and beautiful, and the slow process of building a real family. It wasn't perfect. Marco still had nightmares, still conducted business that Keisha didn't ask about, still carried the weight of his empire on his shoulders. But he came home every night, walked both babies at 2 a.m., changed diapers and kissed bruises, and read bedtime stories in his deep, accented voice. And he loved Keisha, fiercely, protectively, completely. "I have something for you," Marco said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Keisha's breath caught. "Marco, it's not what you think. Not yet." He opened the box, revealing a delicate gold necklace with 3 charms, an S for Sophia, an L for Lucas, and a K for Keisha. "One day I'll ask you to marry me properly, but for now, I wanted you to have this, a symbol that you're mine, and I'm yours." "We're yours," Keisha corrected, touching the necklace with trembling fingers. "We're each other's," Marco said, fastening it around her neck. "That's the point." Sophia chose that moment to toddle over, demanding, "Up, up!" Marco scooped her into his arms, and she immediately grabbed his face, her favorite gesture. "Papa," she said contentedly. Lucas finished nursing and let out a satisfied gurgle. Keisha lifted him to her shoulder, and Marco wrapped his free arm around both of them. They stood there, this impossible family, as morning light painted everything gold. Keisha thought about the girl she'd been 6 months ago, desperate, alone, terrified. And she looked at the woman she'd become, loved, protected, home. "Thank you," she whispered against Marco's shoulder. For what? For seeing me. For choosing us. Marco's arms tightened. Thank you for letting me. For trusting me with everything precious. Outside, the ocean rolled steady and eternal. Inside, a family that shouldn't exist, but did anyway, found joy in the ordinary moments, in laughter and tears, and the beautiful chaos of two babies and two hearts learning to beat as one. It wasn't the life Keisha had planned. It was better. And as Marco Valentino held his daughter and his son and the woman who'd given him both purpose and peace, he made a silent vow. He'd spent his life taking what he wanted through violence. But this love, this family, this fragile, beautiful thing, he'd earned through choice, and he'd die before he let anyone take it away. Did you love Keisha and Marco's story? Do you believe in second chances and unexpected love? Drop a heart in the comments if you think Marco will be the father Lucas deserves, and tell us, would you trust someone with a dangerous past to protect your future? Have you ever fallen for someone you knew you shouldn't? Share your stories below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more emotional Mafia romance stories, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Coming next week, the billionaire's secret baby. Mama was his housekeeper until she vanished without a trace. You won't believe what happens when he finally finds her. See you there.